July 3, 2015. Bardstown, Kentucky. A small American town known for its world-famous bourbon distilleries, peaceful neighborhoods, and close-knit community where almost everyone knows everyone. But this quiet town would soon become the center of one of America's most haunting mysteries. On that summer night, a 35-year-old mother was seen alive for the very last time. 2 days later, her car was discovered abandoned on the side of a highway. Inside were her cell phone, her keys, her purse, everything she would normally take with her, everything except her. It was as if she had simply vanished from the face of the earth. To this day, her remains have never been found. And despite years of investigation, countless searches, witness testimony, and a murder conviction, one question still remains unanswered. Where is Crystal Rogers? Crystal Maria Rogers was born and raised in Bardstown, Kentucky. From an early age, she was known as a cheerful, outgoing, and deeply family-oriented person. Her parents, Tommy and Sherry Ballard, had built a close-knit family where everyone stood by one another through good times and bad. To the people who knew her, Crystal wasn't defined by a job title or social status. Above all else, she was a mother of 5. Her children were the center of her world, and nearly everything she did revolved around them. As the investigation unfolded, the FBI noted something incredibly important in their case profile. Crystal Rogers was not known to go anywhere without her children. That single statement speaks volumes about who she was, because Crystal was not the kind of woman who would suddenly walk away from her 5 children without saying a word. And from the very beginning, that's exactly why her disappearance seemed so unusual to investigators. By 2015, there was an important person in Crystal's life, Brooks Houck. He was a local businessman with deep roots in Bardstown. Through his work in real estate, rental properties, and construction, he had built a considerable reputation in the community. On the surface, Brooks appeared to have a successful life. Crystal and Brooks shared a 2-year-old son named Eli, and for a time, their relationship seemed stable. But behind closed doors, cracks had begun to appear. About 6 weeks before Crystal disappeared, she sent Brooks a text message that would later become a significant piece of evidence in the investigation. In the message, Crystal expressed her frustration with their relationship. She wrote that she could no longer continue living this way. No one could have imagined that just a few weeks later, this conversation would take on a far more chilling significance and become one of the key pieces of evidence in a case that would captivate the entire country. July 4th, 2015. Across the United States, families were celebrating Independence Day. Fireworks lit up the night sky. Backyard cookouts were in full swing. Children were laughing, and communities were gathered together in celebration. But for the Ballard family in Bardstown, Kentucky, the day began like any other, except for one troubling detail. No one had heard from Crystal. That morning, her mother, Sherry Ballard, tried calling her daughter. The phone went straight to voicemail. A few hours later, Sherry called again. Still nothing. She sent a text message. No reply. The afternoon turned into evening. The evening turned into night. And there was still no sign of Crystal Rogers. Crystal never went long without checking on her children. She never ignored her family's calls. And she certainly didn't disappear without telling someone where she was going. As the hours passed, an uneasy feeling began to grow. Something had happened. But what? Sherry Ballard could no longer wait. The silence had gone on for too long. She contacted local authorities. Later that same day, investigators received a call. A red Chevrolet Impala had been sitting for hours along the Bluegrass Parkway near Bardstown. When police arrived at the scene, what they found only deepened the mystery. One of the tires was flat. The keys were still in the ignition. A purse sat beside the driver's seat. Her cell phone was still inside the vehicle. There were no obvious signs of a struggle. Just one thing missing: the person who owned the car. According to everyone who knew her, she was not the kind of person who would simply walk away from her 5 children and vanish without a word. From that moment on, the case began to shift. What had started as a missing persons investigation was now becoming something far more troubling: a possible homicide investigation. Investigators quickly focused on one crucial question: Who was the last person to see Crystal Rogers alive? The answer was simple: Brooks Houck, her boyfriend, the father of her young son Eli, and the man whose family farm was the last known place where Crystal had been seen. Police soon began questioning Brooks. He told investigators that the two of them had spent the evening together on July 3rd. Later that night, he said he went to sleep. When he woke up the next morning, Crystal was gone. Her car was gone too. According to Brooks, he assumed she had gone somewhere with friends and didn't think much of it. But to investigators, that explanation raised serious questions because the scenario simply didn't make sense. A devoted mother doesn't usually disappear without a word. She doesn't leave behind her children, her phone, her purse, and her entire life. The more investigators looked at the case, the more one thing became clear: Crystal Rogers had not simply walked away. Days passed. The search continued through forests, fields, farms, ponds, and the areas surrounding nearby highways. Every possible location was thoroughly searched, but there was still no sign of Crystal. Meanwhile, investigators began uncovering new information. Just weeks before she disappeared, Crystal had told Brooks that she no longer wanted to continue their relationship. She felt neglected. She was no longer happy in the relationship. This revelation quickly became an important part of the investigation because in many homicide cases, the breakdown of a relationship often plays a crucial role. October 2015. After nearly 3 months of investigation, the Nelson County Sheriff's Office made an official announcement. Brooks Houck was the sole primary suspect in the Crystal Rogers case. The declaration sent shockwaves through the entire town of Bardstown.